The video that you just saw was created by Nat Jongsala, and in today's tutorial I will recreate this video, but a disclaimer here is that I wasn't able to find exactly the same assets that Nat is using in his video, so my video will not look the same as Nat's video, but you will learn all the techniques and effects that he used. So let's go to After Effects. So in After Effects, create a new composition that is 1080 by 1920 pixels. And at the start of the video you can see that Nat just recorded himself speaking. So I will just use a random clip of Joe Rogan. At the start, change the scale and position of the clip to adjust it to the vertical format. So go to like couple of seconds, let's say 4 seconds or 3 seconds, and we'll start creating the first animation. So the assets that we'll need is a monk picture and a city picture, and you have the assets that I will be using in the description of this video. So import the monk and the city. Okay, and I will hide them right now because I will create a background. So create a new solid and make it kinda this gray color from Nat's video. I will be using this color. And now create another solid of whatever color and search for grid and add a grid to it. And now change the size form to width height sliders and play with the sliders until you get the look that you want. I will set it to these values. And now select this layer with a grid and decrease the opacity. So I will set the opacity to 60%. And now make the monk visible and put him above everything else. And now we'll put the rectangle on his eyes. So just select the rectangle tool and with nothing selected, draw a rectangle like that. Something like that, and of course change the fill to white, and we can actually remove the stroke. And now we can parent link this rectangle to the monk. Okay, and go to like 3 seconds mark and click on the monk and click P to open the position, keyframe the position, go to like 4 seconds and keyframe the position there. And on the 4 seconds put him like there. Also I will increase his scale. And now go to 3 seconds and put him down so he is not visible on the screen. Okay, this is too slow, I think we'll have to make it faster, so just move the second keyframe closer to the first keyframe. Now also select both of these keyframes, click F9, go to the graph editor and edit speed graph and create an ease in animation, so like that. The graph should look like that. Okay, now make the city picture visible and go to the point where the monk is almost fully on the screen. So go to like kinda this point and open the position on the city picture and keyframe the position. And now go, let's say like here. So even before the monk is fully animated, and keyframe the position again. And now I will also increase the scale of the city. And now on the second keyframe, set the city picture position to something like that. And on the first keyframe, copy the X position from the second keyframe, paste it here, and actually only change the Y position, put it down, like that. Okay, another thing we can do is select both of these keyframes, click F9 and just add a ease in. Let's see right now. Yeah, it's pretty good. Okay, so now we'll make the city picture black and white. Go to Effects and Presets and search for Hue and Saturation. Add it to the city picture. Decrease the saturation to -100, and actually I will also decrease the lightness to something like -18. And now I will create these red rectangles forming a circle coming from behind the monk's head. And so in order to do that, deselect everything here and pick a rectangle tool and create a shape like that. Change the fill to red color and now rotate it 90 degrees and now put it behind the city and the monk like that. And now right click on this layer and pre-compose it. This will just make it much easier to manage the whole composition. And I have counted and we'll need 18 of those rectangles, so just copy this layer 17 more times. And now we'll adjust the anchor point. So very important thing is to go here, click there and put the anchor point at the bottom, so here, because this will allow us to rotate all of these rectangles to create this circle shape. And adjust this anchor point for every one of these rectangles. Okay, and after that, just one by one on every one of these rectangles change the rotation to create this shape. So I will be back when I do that. Okay, and I see that 18 rectangles is too much for me, so I will just delete the last 3 rectangles. And so yeah, now we created a shape like that. Okay, now we have the whole layout. We can actually animate the background appearing. So to do this, we have to just simply keyframe the opacity on the background layer and on the Joe Rogan podcast layer in my case. So go to 3 seconds and open the opacity on both the grid and background layers and keyframe it on the 3-second mark. Now go to like somewhere here, so a little more than 3.5 seconds, and keyframe the opacity again. Go to the first set of keyframes and set the opacity to 0 on both the grid and the background. And of course this shape will animate in a moment, so don't pay attention to that right now. But now open the opacity on your clip and keyframe it in the same places. And at the second keyframe, set the opacity to 0. Okay, when looking at Nat's video, I see that we can actually put the first set of keyframes like somewhere here. So the monk is almost, fully animated. And push the second set of keyframes a little. Okay, make it a little shorter, like that. Actually, now I see that we can make the monk animation a little longer. Let's see right now. Okay, yeah, now it's cool. And so now we'll animate this shape behind the monk's head. So in order to animate this shape, select the composition where you have this shape and open the scale and rotation. Keyframe it, go a couple frames ahead, keyframe it again. Now go to the first set of keyframes and set the scale to 0. Put the anchor point of this composition in the middle of this shape. As you can see, this shape is now growing behind the head of this monk. And now at the second keyframe, change the rotation to some high value, like 600, let's say. But now also extend the second keyframe of the rotation like a lot, something like this. Okay, this 600 was actually a mistake, so I've put the rotation on the second keyframe to 90. Okay, so now there are only 2 more things that we have to do. The first is adding this kind of dust or ruins, particles flying around. So in order to do that, you have to find the asset kind of like this, for example on YouTube, and I found something like this. So import these particles and increase the scale. And now go to effects and presets and search for key light, drag it onto the particles and select the screen color and change it to green. And that's it, that's enough. Now you've created these flying particles from the left. Of course, I will give you these particles in the description of this video, in the asset folder. Now as the last thing, we'll create these waves behind the monk. So in order to do that, just deselect everything and click G to pick a pen tool. And now create a line like that. Now change the fill to none and change the stroke color to black. And stroke width, adjust it to your liking. I will put it at 34 and now put it behind everything except for the background. And I will be back when I create all of these lines. And now select all of them, click T and change the opacity to something like 20%, let's say. Now copy the opacity keyframes from the background and put the same opacity keyframes on all of these folded lines so that it is animated with the background. Let's see right now. Okay, but now opacity from the background keyframes is set to 60 at the end, but we want to set the opacity of these lines to 20 at the end. So select all of them and change the opacity to 20 again. I will now select all of these layers and right click on them and pre-compose them, just to make everything easier to manage. And now we'll have to shorten these dust particles. So go to the point where the background starts animating. No, actually go to the point where the background is fully animated. And just place the start of the clip with your dust particles in this place. We have to also animate these particles appearing on the screen, because right now they are appearing out of nowhere. So in order to change that, we will keyframe the position of them at the start and then like a couple frames later. Go to the first keyframe and set the position to the left so that it looks like these particles are coming from the left of the screen. Let's see how it looks. Okay, it's way too fast. We have to put the second keyframe a lot further ahead. So let's say right here. Okay, it's better, but still way too fast. Just play with the position of this keyframe. Okay, so I've put this keyframe right there. Okay, I've also made the rotation animation of this shape behind the monk's head a little longer. Okay, so this is everything about this first part of this video. And in the second part we want to animate these two colorful faces coming from the left and the right. And we want to decrease the scale of the monk and make him darker. And as you can see, I will use Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos. So in order to animate them, you have to just simply keyframe the position. So I will be back when I do that. Okay, this is how it looks right now. Also remember that it has to be pretty quick and that the right side character should be appearing first on the screen. Okay, and also other thing that I haven't mentioned before is that we have to add a really subtle wiggle effect to the city and to both of the characters. So I have a preset for that and it's called Slide Object Wiggle, and I will break it down right now. So let's add it to the city. Okay, let's see how the city looks right now. Yeah, it's way too strong. This is just a transform preset, because when you open here you go to FX, transform, and you open the rotation and open the position. There are the expressions that I'm using. These expressions basically mean that the object is moving 1 time per second and is wiggling 7.5 points to the left or right or up or down, and is rotating 1.5 points to the left or right. So as you can see, it's too strong, so we have to decrease these values. So we can put the position wiggle at, let's say, 3.5 points and the rotation wiggle at 0.5 points. Let's see how it looks right now. Yeah, right now it's much better. And so now copy this transform effect and paste it onto Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos in my case. And let's see how it looks right now. Okay, yeah, it's good. And so now what I will do is, in the moment where the character animation starts, so when they start appearing on the screen, I will start also decreasing the size of the monk, and I will also put this city picture a little down. So it's nothing complicated, you can do it yourself, so I will be back when I do that. One more thing that I should mention is that when you're decreasing the scale of the monk, you have to remember to also decrease the scale and change the position of this shape behind his head. Okay, so this is how it looks for me right now. I think it's pretty good, but what we can do is actually select the keyframes on both of the characters and click F9 and make an ease in animation on both of them. So move it like that. Let's see right now. Yeah, now it's better, but now we can actually also make Jeff Bezos appear faster. Yeah, okay, now it's good. Okay, one more thing is that we have to get rid of these dust particles flying around when the second animation starts, so when these two characters start appearing on the screen. So in order to do that, we can just keyframe the opacity. So go to the point where the first character starts appearing on the screen, select the dust particles layer and click T and keyframe the opacity here. Go like, let's say, to this point and keyframe the opacity again. And on the second keyframe set the opacity to 0. Yeah, and now these particles are gone. Now I will change the color of both of the characters and the monk behind them. So let's start with a monk. Okay, so in order to change the color of this monk, go to Effects and Presets and search for Hue and Saturation and put it onto the monk. And now keyframe the channel range in the moment that the monk starts decreasing in scale, and go to this moment, so the last keyframe of the scale of the monk, and change the saturation to -100. And now only copy this effect, Hue and Saturation effect, go to the first keyframe when the saturation starts decreasing and select this shape behind his head and paste this effect here. Yeah, now as you can see, it is working also on this shape. So the monk is done, and now the only thing that is remaining in this animation is to color both the Elon and Jeff Bezos in my case. Okay, so in order to change the color of both of these characters, you have to search for effect Hue and Saturation, and in this effect check the colorize box and play with the colorize hue and colorize saturation. So with colorize hue, you're basically changing the color that you're using. And I found that the kind of red color is -2. And now with colorize saturation, you're basically deciding what should be the intensity of this color. So as you can see, 100 is way too high. So for me, 37 is good on the left character. And let's see Elon now. So this purple color is -73 on colorize hue, and colorize saturation I have put to 40. Okay, so now this whole first part of the animation is ready. Okay, and since the second animation starts with a hard cut, basically there is no transition, I decided to make a separate composition for that, just to make everything more clear. Okay, so in the second animation, the first thing that we can see is that the scale is animated. So keyframe the scale at the start, go like 1 second ahead and keyframe the scale again. And now at the start, increase the scale. After that, we'll create this white rounded rectangle with icons and title. And so in order to do that, just go here to the rectangle tool and click Q on your keyboard to change it to rounded rectangle tool and just start drawing a shape. Set the fill to white and the stroke to none. And on the right menu you can change the roundness. Okay, now basically create every other element of this title individually. So I will not show you that because that's pretty easy. All you have to do is just create new shapes. But what I can tell you is that this asset, so this stone face, you have in the description of this video in the asset folder. And I will see you when I finish that. Okay, so this is what I've came up with, and now I will break it down for you. So basically I've pre-composed all the layers that I used in this title, and I will show you what fonts I used. So for the stone face I've used Montserrat and the version is black, and I have also increased the vertical scale to 144%. As you can see, it's making this text bigger vertically. And now on this text I also used Montserrat, but now with the version extra bold. And I can also show you how to create this star shape behind the stone face. So go to shape tool and just choose a star tool, draw a star like that. And now in the contents, select polystar, go to polystar path. And here you can basically adjust anything you want. So we can set it to more points, let's say 10, now we have 10 points. You can increase the inner radius or decrease it to make it look differently. And you can also increase or decrease the outer radius. You can basically do anything you want there and create your own shape. And also what I've done is I've created a toggle hold keyframe here to create this freeze frame effect, because in this moment we will be cutting Joe's head. So in order to create this freeze frame effect, you have to right click on this layer, go to time, enable time remapping, and then you will be able to keyframe the time remap, and then just right click on the keyframe that you create and go to toggle hold keyframe. Okay, so now we will just animate the position of this whole title. So go to like this moment, so right before you created this toggle hold keyframe, and just keyframe the position here. Go to, let's say, a couple of frames after the toggle hold keyframe, keyframe the position again, and just make this title not visible. Put it down like that. Let's see how it looks right now. Okay, and now we can create the background for this animation. So select the layer with your main clip and copy it. Select the Roto Brush tool. Now double click on this upper layer, and by using Roto Brush tool you will be able to remove the background. So go to the start of the timeline and draw around your character. And now by using Alt you can delete the parts that you don't want in your selection, and by just using left mouse click you can add parts that you want in your selection. And now after you've completed your selection, you have to go frame by frame and see if on every frame your selection is correct. Or you can just skip through the timeline quickly, like I'm doing right now. Because if your character is not moving a lot, then the selection will probably be correct. Okay, in this point I see that actually his ear is not really included, so I will correct that. Okay, yeah, now it's perfect. And when you're done, just click here on freeze. Now this might take a while because now After Effects will go frame by frame to cut this character out of this background. Okay, and when it's done, go back to the main composition, and if you hide the lower layer, you can see that the background is removed, so this is what we wanted. And now firstly, in this animation, the background is just getting darker in the corners, and then it's getting replaced with the grid background. So go to the start of this composition, copy the bottom layer, go to Effects and Presets and search for Exposure, and put it on this middle layer. For now, don't do anything in this exposure, we will do it in a moment. But now with this middle layer selected, go to Ellipse tool and draw a mask. And make your mask look like that and then invert it. Now is the time when we will go to exposure. So keyframe the exposure at the start and go to the moment when you will be changing the backgrounds. So it is the same moment where there is this toggle hold keyframe. And keyframe the exposure here again. Actually, you can adjust this mask a little, let's say like that. And now on the first keyframe, set the exposure to 0. And on the last keyframe, play with the exposure to get the darkness in the corner that you want. Now go to your mask and increase the mask feather. And boom, this way we've created the effect of corners getting darker. You can of course play with all the values. You can play with the position of keyframes, with the exposure value, with the position of mask to get the look that you want. Also, it's very important to create this copy, this bottom copy of the clip, because without this will look like that. You see, so it's not really good, so you have to create this copy. And now in this moment, we'll start changing the background from this background to the grid background. So first of all, we have to create this grid background. So create a new solid, set the color to gray, like that, and put it behind the top clip layer. So like that. And now create another solid, put it here and search for grid and put grid on this second solid. And now set the size from to width and height sliders and play with these two sliders to get the look that you want. Okay, so for me it will look like that. Actually, to make this easier to manage, I will select both of these solid layers and make a start of them somewhere here. So I know that somewhere here they are meant to start appearing. Okay, and now decrease the opacity of the grid layer, let's say to 20%. Okay, and as you can see in Nat's video, this background is darker in some places. So basically copy the gray background layer, go to the middle of all these three. I will change the name because this one is actually grid. So go to the bottom one of these backgrounds, use a shortcut Shift Ctrl Y. This way you will be able to change the color of this background and change it to black. Click new. Okay, this is my mistake, basically put this above this gray background. And now with this black background selected, go up here and select Ellipse tool and start drawing shapes like that. So this is the first mask, select this background again, this is the second mask, select background again, and this is the third mask. And now go to all of these three masks and increase the feather to something like 600. And now you can also play with the path of these masks, and also of course you can increase the feather if you feel like it. Okay, so this is what I've came up with. Okay, so now we'll make this second background appear. So basically this is just an opacity animation. So go to the moment where you want this background to start appearing. I would say it's a couple frames before the toggle hold keyframe on the main clip. Go right here, select all of these three new background layers, click T to open the opacity, keyframe the opacity here, and go to the toggle hold keyframe, or maybe even a little, like 2 frames after that, and keyframe the opacity again. Go to the first set of keyframes and set the opacity to 0, and let's see how it looks right now. Yeah, I think it looks pretty good. So the background is ready, and now we'll create this open head animation. So in order to do that, copy this top Joe Rogan layer, and now deselect everything and create a mask like that in the place where you want the head to be cut. And now duplicate this shape layer and basically invert it. And now set the track matte of this top clip layer to the first shape that you created, like that. And set the track matte of this second clip layer to the second shape that you created. And now parent link the first shape layer to the top clip layer, and parent link the second shape layer to this clip layer. This way these two shape layers, so these two masks, will follow the clip layers if we change the position of them. So let's see how it works. If we change the position of the top clip layer, you can see that it's working. And you can even see that at the start of this animation, like, there's this little cut, and we don't want this to be visible. So change the position of this clip layer to, let's say, 1 number higher, so 949 in my case. And now it's not really visible. Now keyframe the position of this top clip layer and go a couple frames ahead and keyframe the position again, and just on the second keyframe move it so it's not visible on the screen, like that. Now we'll have to create this shape to make it look like his head is opened. So in order to do that, deselect everything, choose the pen tool and draw a shape like that. Okay, now change the color of this shape to kinda this color, I would say, or maybe a little darker, like that. Okay, now it looks kinda like his head is opened, but the problem is that we have to put this shape layer below, right there. And now let's see how it looks. Yeah, now it's really good. Okay, also remember that you have to shorten this open head shape layer. So put the start of it in the place where the toggle hold keyframe on Joe Rogan is. So it will start being in this composition only after we froze the frame, and that's perfect. Okay, what we can also see in the nuts animation is that the position and scale of the main clip is changing when the head is being opened. So go to the moment where the upper part of his head is not visible anymore. Now parent link this open head shape layer to this clip layer, and go to this clip layer and open position and scale keyframes. Keyframe these values in this moment, go a couple frames ahead, keyframe it again, and in the second set of keyframes increase the scale and change the position. Okay, yeah, it looks really good. And so now we'll create this light coming out of his head. And so in order to do that, we have to create two new solids, make both of them white, and with one of them selected, go to pen tool and draw a shape that will look something like this. Now make the other one not visible, and now correct the path of this mask. So it looks like this light is coming out of his head. Okay, something like this is okay. And now make this second white solid visible again, put it above the first white solid, and now search for gradient ramp and put it on this solid. And now change the position of this upper anchor point, so the black color anchor point, put it somewhere here. And now set the track matte of this bottom white solid to this upper white solid and set it to Luma. And as you can see right now, it looks pretty good. You can also play with the opacity if you want this light to be less visible. We want to make this light only visible in this moment, so select both of these layers and set the start of them in this moment. And now also we want to keyframe the opacity of this bottom white solid, so at the start keyframe the opacity, go a couple frames ahead and keyframe the opacity again, go to the first keyframe and set the opacity to 0. This way this light effect is animated. Now also we'll make his open head look a little better, so select this open head layer and I will add my preset that is called inner shadow to this layer, and this way I can create the inner shadow on this shape. You see, now I think it looks much better. And you can create this whole preset by yourself. You can see what effects I am using to create that, but this will not be needed because I will give you this preset in the asset folder in the description. So now the next thing is to create this star shape and Google Calendar coming from inside the head. So import the Google Calendar from the asset folder, and now we'll create this star shape. So go up here, hold left key on this shape and select star tool, and now draw a star and make it look like in Nuts video by playing with the points number and the inner radius. So I think this is pretty good, so 10 points and 198 inner radius. Now put both of these layers, so this star layer and the Google Calendar, behind the Joe Rogan layer, like that. Okay, and I will want them to start appearing like right there, let's say. So I will shorten them. Now put the Google Calendar above this star layer. And now to make them come from inside the head, all you have to do is keyframe the position. So you already know how to do that, I will not show you that. Okay, so this is how I've animated this. Remember to also animate the rotation of this star. And now we'll add the wiggle effect to this calendar. So I already used a wiggle effect in this video, but I will show you how to do it one more time. So I have a preset for that. It's called Slide Object Wiggle. Put it on the calendar. And by the way, you will have this preset in the description of this video. So let's see how it looks with these values. Okay, I think with these values it's too subtle on this animation, so we'll increase the second number to 15 on this one, and here to 3.5, let's say. And we'll also change the first number to 2. Okay, the rotation is good, but I think the position is too subtle. So let's change it to 25 maybe even. Okay, yeah, now it's pretty good. And so now let's preview this whole part 2. Okay, yeah, I think it looks really good. So now let's move to the third part of this reel. And now, since between the second animation of this reel and the third animation of this reel there is no transition, I'll just create another composition just to make it easier to manage. The first thing that we have to do is to create a background. So basically this is the same background as in the part 2, but this time it's not gray, but it's blue. And so you already know how to create this background, so I will not show you that. So I will see you when I create this background. Okay, so this is the background that I've came up with. And also other thing that I have to tell you is this lower darker part on Nat's background is actually animated because it's lighter at the start and then darker at the end. So in order to get this look, you want to make your mask look something like this and keyframe the mask feather. At the start put it at higher value and at the end put it at lower value. This way it looks like that. So this darkness is kinda animated. And so now import the hand picture. You have this in the asset folder. Now duplicate this hand, flip one of them horizontally, and now increase the scale and change the position. Also we'll apply a wiggle effect to them. So now we have to change the color of them to make them gray. So search for hue and saturation and put it on both of these hands. And just decrease the master saturation to -100, and you can also decrease the master lightness. And now in order to animate them coming on the screen, we have to keyframe the position and rotation, but before that we have to put the anchor point on both of these hands at the bottom. And now just keyframe the position and the rotation to get the look that you want. Okay, so these are the values that I've set on the first set of my keyframes, and let's see how it looks. Yeah, I think it's pretty good. And now we'll create this triangle with question mark. So in order to do that, go to the shapes and select polygon tool, draw a polygon, open this shape layer, open contents, go to Polystar 1 and go to Polystar path and change the points to 3. This will make it so that it's a triangle. Now here add round corners and go to round corners and increase the radius. This way you will create a triangle with rounded corners. Now of course change the position and the rotation of that and the scale also. Okay, change the color of that to white. Actually change the color of that to white with a slight blue tint, like that, let's say. Decrease the opacity to like 65 and now add a glow. And now to create this effect, copy my values on the glow. So change the glow threshold, radius, set the glow operation to add. Okay, so now the only thing that is remaining is to basically add a heart, $sign and question mark inside of this triangle. Import the heart and $sign from the asset folder and change the color of them. So go to effects and presets and search for change to color. Put it on the heart. Set the first color to the color of the heart. And the second color I will set to this color so you can copy the code. Okay, and also remember to change the change option to hue, lightness and saturation. And now copy this effect and paste it to $sign. Now also parent link the $sign to the right hand and parent linked heart to the left hand. The left hand is also animated a little later than the right hand, so just go to the left hand, click U to show you all the keyframes and select all of these keyframes and put them like 5 frames later. Let's see right now. We can put them even later. Okay, and now we'll create the question mark inside of this triangle. So just create a new text layer and type question mark here. I am using a font Monsterrat and the version extra bold. And now parent link this question mark to the triangle layer. And now the last thing that I will show you how to do is I will show you how to make this triangle appear on a screen like in Nat's video. So in order to do that, you have to create a new solid. The color doesn't matter. And now select rectangle tool and create a mask in this place, let's say, maybe a little lower. Okay, and now set the track matte of this triangle shape layer to this new solid, and also set the track matte of this question mark to this new solid. So now this rectangle is a mask for this triangle. And now also the last thing that we'll do is go to mask on this solid and increase the feather so that this animation looks a little better. Hide it and let's see how it looks right now. Now when it's appearing, you can see that there is this feather effect and this just looks much better. So really the last thing to finish this third animation is to keyframe everything, is to keyframe the position of this triangle and keyframe the position of both of these hands. But you already know how to do that, so I don't think there is a point in showing you how to set your keyframes. So at this point I will just finish this tutorial, and thank you guys for watching and see you in the next video.